presentation of the evacuation
All
plan.
right. Mm-hmm.
Morning, MJ.
Mine.
Good morning.
Good morning, all.
Morning, Dale.
Good morning, Bud. And just so people know, this thing now automatically starts recording when the first person pops in. So we are recording. And as soon as we get at 8 o'clock or thereabouts and have a quorum, we will go ahead and get started this morning.
Okay, dear. Okay. I'm coming. Little breakfast. You want a little breakfast? Okay, you can have a little breakfast, dog. Go ahead.
You give me a little coffee and
You can put that down for her.
Good morning. Good morning. This is Lynn Eisberg checking in by telephone. Hello?
Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, great. Thank
We
you. I'm
thank you
going to
for,
mute myself.
okay, great. Jerry, is that you, Jerry Sheffrin, that says Jerry?
It is.
Great, thank you.
My bandwidth may or may not be adequate for the video. I will try.
Okay, we need one more member to pop in, so we have got a quorum. I know that Craig is not going to make it. And I know that Mary Ann is not going to make it.
Sounded like Ray was out of town, but
Yeah, I got a note from Ray saying he may or may not make it, but he'd know Wednesday night. So I'm, there we go. There's Vic. Thank you, Vic. So great. We now have a quorum. It's 8:02. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order so we can go ahead and get started this morning. Thank you all for attending on this beautiful August morning. Some of you may be in transit or elsewhere, so thank you again for your time. One thing I do want to, let's do a roll call first. I am here, Jerry Sheffrin, I see you. Lynn Eisberg checked in on phone. Thank you, Lynn. Vic Schachter, I see you. Bud Trapp, I see Bud. Rob Young, I see Rob. Dave Howes, are you here? I don't see Dave. We'll see if he shows up. Chris Ronis. I don't see Chris, although maybe he will check in. And Ray. I don't see Ray, although maybe he will also check in. So thank you all for coming again. Oral communications, one quick point I have today is most of you, if not all of you, should have received the notice from the town about the settlement and use of electronic communications during meetings. It came too late to be agendized for this meeting, but I would please hope that we would all respect the intent of that and refrain from any electronic communications during the course of this meeting. It will be agendized and adopted and asked for adoption at our next meeting. So thank you very much. Any other oral communications this morning? Okay, having seen none, we'll close oral communications. Ask for approval of the minutes of July 7th.
So move. Second.
Approved. Thank you all very much. Appreciate that. Now we're going to go to the review of the final draft of the traffic evacuation capacity study. This is the final draft. This is a quick review to see if there's any other comments, changes, questions on this. We've reviewed this 2 or 3 times in this committee, so hopefully there's nothing of serious consequence. This will be at the town council meeting on the 10th of August. For a community-wide hearing on this. And again, if there are any corrections at that point that people bring up, they can be incorporated into it. We're fortunate we've got Bob Grandy of Fair and Peers, the author of the reports, and Rob Young, who was instrumental in helping put this together, both here. So if there are any, I don't have any questions at this time. I'm going to open it up for questions, comments. I don't think Bob had anything prepared, no presentation, since we've seen this a number of times, and there was a link to the evacuation study in the minutes and on the town website, by the way. So with that, I am going to open up to Rob. You want to say a couple of things, Rob, or Bob? Do you want to say anything? Okay. Does the committee have any questions, thoughts, modifications, adjustments to this traffic evacuation capacity study? I want to point out this is not really an evacuation study. It was a traffic capacity study at a specific time of day that we felt we could get pretty good information to begin to bound the problem. Nothing else from the committee?
I have one question, Dale.
Yep.
Were there questions from members of the town that I missed that we should be aware of that maybe haven't been publicly discussed by this committee?
Rob, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jerry. There were a whole series of inputs that we made earlier before it was actually part of the EPC of concerns of people in the town. And to my best knowledge, everything that people were concerned with was included. I think one thing to realize is that this is, I certainly have enjoyed greatly working with Bob on this. This is an initial traffic study. It's to bound the problem. It is only for the major artery roads of the town. It assumes all the collection of everybody that has to evacuate. I think that there's follow-on that needs to be done, which is included in section 5 of the report. But I'd be interested to see what Bob says about this. But I think that listening to the residents of the town and their concerns and what they wanted to be included in this study was a vital element that we did. And I think it's very important to be able to have studies like this that come out and have people comment so that it can be inclusive of what residents are worried about. Bob, do you have anything?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think for every community we're working in, this type of study is the start of a process. There are a number of issues that this committee raised and that Dale and Rob raised that are going to be, I think there's a commitment to address going forward in terms of developing a more detailed evacuation plan that not only responds to some of the information in this report, but addresses more specific issues such as evacuation plans for the schools and Sequoias. That's sort of an ongoing process with the Department of Emergency Management, a working group. So there are, and those items are identified both in the study and we discussed them at our last meeting. And I think that's important. The issue of wildfire evacuation is very much, I would say, in its early infancy, stimulated by severe fires in 2018, 2019, legislation in 2019 that has stimulated requirements for cities to develop more detailed evacuation plans. And those efforts sort of began to get underway in earnest in 2020 and 2021. And it's an evolving process for cities who each have their own individual specific issues and challenges to address. So I think the goal was for this project, for this study, to provide information on how long it would take to evacuate along various scenarios. I would say that in the committee meetings definitely shaped how we did that. They shaped the scenarios we evaluated and how we defined those scenarios. When we started the process, we had a draft version, and those very much changed as a result of committee and community input. They changed the way we think about the input, changed the way we analyzed. Initially, we were going to analyze based on a single capacity scenario. We now have two capacity scenarios. What happens if there's more of a normal capacity scenario? What happens if there's substantially reduced capacity scenario? So we've got a range of information in the document now that I think will be helpful. But I think it reiterates the need to be prepared. And I think one of the things we've talked about a lot is just the importance of responding early to evacuation warning and notices that come out in the future. And particularly, I think, for those portions of the community that are farther from 280, the areas of Upper Los Trancos, Upper Alpine, there are a couple of areas with limited egress routes along Portola that are identified. So those areas, I think, are highlighted as ones where sort of very early response to warnings and notices are very important. So with that, I think I'll pause and maybe turn it back to Robert Dale.
I think, Jerry, one of the big comments early on was a request for, doing the study in the middle of the day when the schools are in session. And the technical reason for that, and I'll just repeat it again, is we don't have good evacuation plans from all the schools yet. And without that, we don't have any basis to begin assumptions. And another point that Bob mentioned briefly, we're pretty early actually in the study of evacuation on the West Coast. They've done lots of studies on the East Coast for hurricane evacuation, but that really doesn't apply to ours. And so Bob and actually the town, we're kind of in the early phases of doing evacuation studies, capacity studies for wildfire. And I think we'll get a lot more information and modeling skill over the next few years.
And just to add to that, the other area where there's been evacuation planning done is around nuclear power plants. But again, those have very different kinds of, from a traffic evacuation standpoint, very different kinds of profiles. There is a tremendous amount of research being done at academic institutions now, both in the US and Canada and Europe, around wildfire evacuations, to try and develop more specific information around a range of different issues. And I think we will know a lot more as an industry in a year or two. Many of them, including UCLA and UC Berkeley, are developing specific models, multidimensional models to respond. And so there's a lot of work being done to build specific or develop specific information around wildfires and modeling for these kind of situations where I think in a year or two, we will be much further along as an industry than we are today. We have the tools to do all the things that we need to do, but there's an important integration.
Well, I really appreciate that. I think, if I vote to approve this, I want to know that the questions from the community have been heard and have been addressed to the degree possible, so that when it gets to the council knows that there's been all the community input that's needed for them to feel comfortable reviewing and approving if that's what they choose to do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, thoughts from the committee?
Dale, I see, it looks like MJ has her hand up. If I got that right.
Yeah, she's from the public, so we're going to go there next.
Sorry.
Not a problem. Okay, MJ, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I was wondering, excuse me, what ended up being the total cost of this study so far? Based on what you guys are saying, it sounds like it's going to turn into a longer term study, maybe an annual thing. And I'm a little concerned because I know over in Marin, their evacuation study has turned into $1 million effort. So I was wondering what's the current cost and what do you think will happen going forward?
I was happy to answer that question. This went to the council last, I believe, August or September. Our total study budget was $75,000. So that's the quick answer to your question.
And through the chair, this is Jeremy. There's been an additional $15,000 authorized to do additional work related to the housing element. So once the housing element is in its final draft format, housing community development related. So this is related to the site selection piece. Once that information is ready to go, that'll come back to Bob and his team to see if there's any further analysis that's warranted and can be helpful. Thanks.
I'm happy to comment if you would like briefly on the Marin study, because that's a very different, that the $1 million effort that you mentioned, and we happen to be serving as an advisor on that team and working on that project. It's a very different kind of assessment. It's looking at the entire county of Marin, all the cities and the unincorporated county, and it's doing two things. It's doing a risk assessment of the network. It's kind of a first of its kind effort around that. It also is building a model for use in Marin that has both a wildfire communications and an evacuation module. And that team includes UC Berkeley, and we're collaborating on that effort, but very much a much larger scale in terms of the area covered and in terms of what it's the goal of the study is in terms of accomplishment. So
Okay, thanks, Bob. And just to Based question, if there are additional studies and so on that would be recommended probably by this committee, then through the town council for approval. So this, other than what Jeremy mentioned, this should complete this portion of the study. Jeremy, your hand is up.
Yeah, just one other thing I wanted to point out that is going to build out of this is it's the discipline related to how evacuation work and requirements of the state have a relationship to land use. This is the earliest stages, but certainly one of the things that we're monitoring at our end is understanding how CEQA law may or may not change related to what we're learning in evacuations. I mean, I think one of the things that people want to understand is, what's the appropriate amount of housing in communities that have different kinds of inputs. So, the number of roads and what capacity can be changed and what plans you have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that, Bob, I don't know if you want to say anything to that, because I know you guys are involved in some of these efforts. The town has had conversations with the state primarily through the governor's office of planning and research to understand where this science is going, where this discipline is going. And it's very early stages, but something that I think will be of great community interest. Bob, anything you wanted to add to that?
sure. So the legislation I mentioned earlier started in 2019. It was Assembly Bill 747 was the first one, and that required cities, as they update their safety elements or local hazard mitigation plans, to identify their evacuation routes and evaluate the capacity and viability of those routes. It didn't state in the legislation, as is typical of all legislation, didn't state how to do that. So that's something that the governor's office of planning and research has been working on, is developing guidance that we're now told is going to be coming out by the end of the year. That typically comes out as draft guidance or rules for public comment, and then it takes a period of time for review and then a final set of rules and guidance. But we expect by the end of the year to see that from OPR. On the CEQA side, so that's for like a general plan safety element or general planning that a community would do around wildfire evacuation. The Attorney General's office who has weighed in on several lawsuits related to evacuations analysis, is separately developing some guidance on how CEQA should address this in environmental assessments for projects going forward. We also expect that to be released sometime by the end of the year. So there's two state agencies that are developing guidance or rules around this. We think they will give us some good sort of policy direction. The uncertainty at this point is how much technical direction they will give us on methodologies. We suspect that will be left very much to local cities and counties to work out themselves. But hopefully they provide us some good guidance about what the state expects to see in both planning and CEQA documents.
Thanks, Bob. Any other comments, questions from the community? I don't see any other hands raised, so we'll bring it back to committee. I would entertain a motion to approve the draft plan as currently written, subject, of course, to any final comments that come out at the town council meeting.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Your plan that, at least from the EPC standpoint, is approved as written, Bob. And we thank you very much for the effort, recognizing that this is very, very early and gives us a piece of the information, but not everything we need. And it will be ongoing. So thank you, Bob. Thank you, Rob, for your help. Rob, if people don't know, found out how many horse trailers there are in the town, and I think counted every one. So that's a big part of some of the things we learned doing this. So,
Dale,
yeah,
Dale, it's Vic, just one brief comment. I think to build on Jerry's inquiry, as this goes forward, I also want to emphasize the importance of making sure we provide adequate opportunity for the community to continue to give input. I think this is going to be really, really important as this process moves forward, that they feel their anxieties, their concerns are being addressed. So I just want to second that to Bob as he goes forward with any additional efforts.
great. Yep, I full well agree. I think this is the third meeting at this committee, and I think we had at least one, maybe two in the wildfire committee. So we've had lots of opportunities, and Bob has done a good job addressing and changing things as we move forward to get the best result we could under the constraints that we had. So thank you all, and thanks for your comments, Vic and Jerry. Okay, with that, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda. We still have some volunteer opportunities. I'm still looking for a secretary of the committee so that I don't have to do the minutes every week. Do I have any volunteers? Okay, I don't have any. Gee, I wonder why.
Dale,
Yes,
Dale, this is Lynn.
yes.
I am going to help you out there.
Oh, thank
On
you
the-
so much.
You shouldn't have to run the whole show, so I will help you out with that, and I'll just copy what you've been doing, your style. So
Yeah, we do
Okay.
action minutes, and the good thing is all the meetings are recorded, so you can run back through it at 2x speed and capture the important points. Actually, the important action minutes, actually it's motions and results of motions that are most important thing. I often write down a lot of what the chief says, because that's some of the most important information we get. Okay, the other volunteer we have is anybody on this committee willing to also serve on the wildfire committee? Okay, I don't see any hands right now, and we will keep asking. On to the next item on the agenda, the town picnic on September 17th. I copied the memo from Patty Dews, who, thank you, Patty, is doing a fabulous job organizing the Tots Town Picnic again this year. The EPC has always had a table or two, actually, at the town picnic, generally in concert with Selena and WPV CERT, WPV Ready, and the fire department. I would hope this committee would be willing to, again, support that and show up and show your support. Any comments, thoughts?
Yeah, just one comment. It's been I've been invited to also participate in the wildfire committee to show up in addition to what we're doing for EPC. And Dale, I don't know if there are any sensitivities to that, but it seems to me a collective effort in that we are mutually supporting one another in our efforts at these public events at the town is desirable. If there are any sensitivities about that, feel free to let me know, but I agree to, at least while I'm there, to be available as a resource to that committee, as well as support the efforts of the EPC. If there are any concerns about that, please let me know.
Nope, there are no concerns. I think we can all be probably grouped somewhat together in the same area. That's what we've done historically.
Right.
Okay, so do I have a motion on the floor to participate in the September 17th?
So move.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great, and I hope in the past, sometimes we've had signups. This time, I think we'll just hope that everybody can show up for a period of time. It's not an extremely long commitment, but it'd be nice if everybody on the EPC would show up for at least a portion of the day. So great. And Patty, we are all in.
Thank you very much. And remember, we've got the Zots to Tots fun run right before. Work
Yeah.
up a little sweat, come over, get some ice cream and talk about emergency preparedness.
Great. Thank you, Patty. Any other, let's see, we'll have any comments from the public about town picnic? Great, nothing there. Okay, on to number 8. Jerry, this is just an opportunity for you to chat a little bit following our last mass meeting.
Yeah, I've had a couple of conversations about doing this, the idea being that we would either use the current emergency plaques or whatever we call them, refrigerator plaques, and actually put the zone number and give those either through dropping them in the mailbox or some other method to each individual Portola Valley resident. And then I promptly left town for another project. So I have not done very much since then, but it does not sound like this will be real complicated. It's obviously important that we do it correctly. The thinking would be we would like get a stamp that would have E002, and we would stamp 100 of these for this particular zone, and maybe do a mass mailing or drop them in the mailbox. But it's very important that we are confident we're doing it accurately, because if we give somebody the wrong zone number, that would be very problematic. But I do think it would be a real positive for getting everybody in the town to actually know what their zone number is. And as Vic, I think, pointed out in a previous meeting, when we have these fairs at the town, many people come up and say they've never done that. They don't know what their zone is. And even if they've looked it up, they can't remember where they wrote it down. So when I get back in town, which I can tell you is going to be September, mid-September, I will be able to put more action into doing this.
Okay, I think that's very admirable. Call on the rest of us for thoughts and so on. I think we have money in our budget to do this, depending on what the best choice is, whether it's to do a mailing or just print up a bunch and then hand them out at the various events. I'm pretty much open to whatever people come up with as the best solution. I think it's a great idea. I think it's very important.
One question I have, Dale, is who is the owner of all these little plaques that we've been given out? Is that the town? Who has the stash? So who can I contact? Is that Jeremy or somebody at the town to find out how many they actually have?
I actually have the box since we handed them out at, I don't remember the last event we were at, but Vic had them and then I got them. So I have the little box of magnets right now. And so I could tell you how many we have left. They're not very expensive, and Carrie ordered them for us last time. through the town. And so we could even, stamp them with a zone number, have them pre-printed with that on if you think that's the best idea. They really aren't expensive.
So if I were to contact Carrie, she and I could work out a proposal potentially either for using whatever plaques are available and ordering more, or even maybe redesigning a new one that might be easier for people to see, remember, whatever.
Absolutely. Carrie had some really good ideas. She was the one who designed or helped design the one we use for the AM radio and the current little plaque that has a space to write in the zone number. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll take it from there. Thanks.
okay. Thanks, Jerry. Okay, on to Chief. I see the chief is here and Selena is here. So Rob, if you'd like to go ahead.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I'll make it as quick as possible since we're already halfway through this. The two things I wanted to focus on were the discussion that we had last month regarding the Edgewood Fire and some questions that have arisen from the zone haven zones, the evacuation orders, and the SMC alert. So I'll just focus on that. The Edgewood Fire, we are having an after action review of that. It's scheduled for the 15th. Yeah, August 15th. So all the stakeholders will be in that meeting. So I should have more information after that. But in the meantime, those two issues that came up, and I've talked informally to some of our neighboring agencies regarding the feedback that we received from the evacuation orders, the splitting of zone haven zones, the intent at the command level versus the reception of the information at the residential level, and the concern that you're trying to educate the public one direction, and then when the emergency comes out, the intent is all well and good to try and alleviate the number of people that we're evacuating if we can possibly do it, but we already have a heightened sense of concern with a fire that's active. And then you're having somebody evacuate and having to look at a zone that has now been split that they don't really have knowledge of. So it's that impression is out there. I've expressed that thanks to all of your feedback. So in the meantime, I've directed all of our command staff who respond on any fires and are to initiate any type of evacuation that we will not split zones. There's like I said, even with the intent being good, the zones all in all at a global aspect are not that big to where we should be confusing an already concerned public. And just a quick story on that. We've gotten some feedback from other residents that actually were evacuated, and their feedback was, I thought I was prepared. I had all my stuff, I thought gathered, my go bag ready. But when that came out and the smoke was there and I heard the sirens, my brains turned in a whole different direction. So we don't need to add to that. So that's been the direction that I've given all of my staff. So you should not see that. And same thing from our neighboring agencies. I've expressed that as well, if they should come into our area. As far as the SMC alerts, there's the same thing. The intent is to put out the SMC alert that is vital at that moment. We don't want to send out alert after alert after alert. And as far as the evacuation went, those alerts did go out. But as far as updates and notifications, the public has been pretty active in their response on, the mountain lion is one thing, the numerous reports on something of that nature, but a wildfire anywhere in our jurisdiction is good enough for me to be able to hear something. Just please, can we at least have something as far as an update so we can at least prepare or get that at least direction from those above us, meaning from the public agencies as to the progress that is going. So we either know to kind of know that it's coming, or know that it's stable, or know that it's de-escalating, or whatever that is. So same thing, we've directed our within our administration to look at how we will be giving out periodic alerts to our community via an SMC alert that doesn't impact the call itself or the agencies that are involved with that, but it is a direction to our residents to at least give an periodic update as to everything that's going, and then all of that can be copied and pasted to all social media sites. That is what we've done in the past and what we will continue to do. Those are the two main things that I have.
Great, thank you very much. I have one question. How's your staffing?
As far as the fires that are going on statewide?
No, for Woodside Fire.
Oh, no, we're good. We're good right now. We had our definite increase in our COVID cases at the beginning of July. But that has subsided. We're back to where we are comfortable, other than vacations. We got people out and about on vacation, but we did send a crew out to the Oak Fire earlier in the month. They spent a few days there and then were released. There is a county team of resources that were sent to the McKinney Fire. We were not a part of that one, so we've been to one. We have one individual who's a line paramedic who was sent to the McKinney Fire. He left yesterday, but other than that, we don't have the larger resources there as of now.
Great, and I thank you for agreeing not to split zones. I just saw this morning that the McKinney Fire, they actually split a zone up there. So I'm sure, and now their zones are much larger than ours, but
yeah, I mean, we've talked, and those that are very proactive on the splitting of zones, their impression and their intent would be to be very descriptive as they're doing that. And I agree with us needing to be very descriptive of that, but then I go back to the case study that I'm just giving you. It's all well and good and it sounds great in theory until it actually happens, and the goal is we want people to leave, and we don't want people to have to question something. And I mean you're at a level to where you're saying, should I leave or not leave? And we've always said, if you're questioning that, don't nickel and dime it down to the fact of, oh, my street is not on there, go ahead and leave. But why do it? Why? There's no need to increase that when the incident itself is already put it at an umpteenth level of concern.
great, thank you. Any other committee questions for the chief, and then we'll move on to Selena quickly.
Yeah, just one quick question. We've been getting these communications about SMC Alert, and I guess to the extent and effectiveness of their current system, and I'm totally confused as to where that is. I didn't know whether the chief or anybody else wants to comment on that, but I'm really confused.
That'll be part of the discussion in our after action.
Got it.
Multiple
Okay.
people in the same room, but it won't be an after action on the on the fire itself, but it's how we move forward, and the tests and all of that are part of how we move forward, not just the event itself. And your concerns are my concerns.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Rob has a quick comment there. Rob?
Yeah, I've been talking a lot with Selena and with Jeff Norris as we transition from Everbridge onto Rave. I think that the last test was a good test because we found out that it didn't work. And I'd rather have it not work before we transition over to the new provider. Selena and I are both watching this very carefully, and we're planning to have another. We would like to have, and we have to talk to Jeremy about this, we'd like to have another townwide test at the end of September to really make sure that the system is working correctly. We're going to focus very carefully on notifying people of this and making sure that the information that goes out during the test is correctly done in English. Selena, do you have any comments on this you'd like to make too?
Oh, I think, Rob, you hit all the points there. And I completely agree. It's better to have the errors that we did at the time we did than, try to rush something.
So I think it's important that we do this because before we flip this giant switch from one provider to another provider, I'd like to make sure that it's actually working. So I have a weekly conversation with Selena, my best friend at the San Mateo County DEM, to talk to him about where we really are and what's going to happen. And Selena is helping me diligently talk to him too.
Jerry, you had a comment, question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood. Rob is acting as a representative of the EPC interacting with Woodside Fire on this effort. Is that how it is structured, or is there, I don't understand who exactly has the ball and who is authorized to do what? If somebody could explain that, I'd appreciate it.
So Rob and Selena are dealing with it locally. I'm handling it more globally. So Selena's in constant communication with me. If I have any questions, it gets relayed to her, and then we'll go in that direction. If I feel like I need to take, a hold of that in any other way, then I would do that. So it's okay. It's okay for the town or for you within the committee to keep it at Rob and Selena, but it gets filtered to me if need be.
I think that's great. I feel very comfortable with both of those people. I just want to know, have we officially as a committee said they're an ad hoc committee to work on this, or is this just sort of being done off the cuff? I didn't understand that.
Gotcha.
This grew out of the evacuation subcommittee, because clearly the SMC alert is part of the evacuation, train. And Rob took it upon himself as we got involved with DEM, when they started talking about having a test and so on. We thought it would be a one-off. And this really is the responsibility of the Woodside Fire and the DEM. We're just trying to make sure it works well for us.
Well, thanks to both of them for taking this on.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, Selena.
Yeah, Rob has been extremely helpful, and he's right. We are in constant communication with DEM. So my report, it's nice to see you guys. I haven't been on a meeting, I think, in a couple of months. So it's nice to be back here. Things are kind of a little bit slower during the summertime, but we are starting to kind of ramp up for a CERT training. We're hoping again to actually hold a in-person skills training. We're going to initially have a CERT call to action webinar next month, and it's going to be on September 8th. So we're going to talk about kind of where we stand with the program and get people interested in signing up for the CERT training. Cam McCowan, who's on here, has been such a huge help in coordinating the CERT trainings. And as well, we're going to be sending her, or she's volunteered to go to the National CERT Conference here in August. I believe it's in Texas. So it's probably gonna be a wonderfully hot time. So once we get back, once she gets back, then we're gonna push even further for our CERT training. We have a lot of interest in that. As well, we are still organizing the trailer, the CERT trailer that's over at PV. We just got another big shelving unit in there to organize more of the medical supplies. So that's continuing forward. We've already talked about the town picnic. I regret to inform you guys that I had planned a vacation many months before, so I will not be in country for the event, which is a real bummer because that's like one of my favorite events for the year. So I'm already working on trying to get coordinate the volunteers, and Jennifer Hammer, who's on here, also is going to assist with organizing the volunteers. And then on the WPV Ready side, we are still pushing forward. I'm trying to get our guide for organizing principles for the program solidified so that we have a district-wide booklet that we can hand to interested new community leaders. And then as well, I'm working with Jeff Norris at the Department of Emergency Management to try to schedule a Stop the Bleed training for our residents. Would really like to hold an in-person event. Obviously would take COVID precautions, but hopefully I'll have something scheduled soon so we can have some training. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Selena. And we will certainly miss you at the town picnic. It'll be the first time in a long time
Yeah.
that you have not been at the town picnic. Okay, with that, we're now going to follow on to the town report. Jeremy, do you have anything? I see you still here, hopefully.
Still here. Thank you, Dale. Appreciate it. It's good seeing everybody. Sorry, my camera's not on. I'm having slight computer issues this morning. Just a few areas that I wanted to focus on. Satellite internet, as you probably know, we have transitioned to a new IT consultant. Redwood City was our IT consultant for many years, but they're no longer in the business of doing that for other cities. So we've moved to an organization called Stepford, used by a lot of other government agencies, including Woodside Fire. They have gotten back to us on satellite internet options. And I've asked staff to follow up, see if there's a way to get a demo, a couple other things. Dale, with your permission, what I'll do is if we do set something up, I'd like to offline just work with you to see if there's any issues. I'd love your input on that, but hopefully the next week or two I can get something going there. So actually relatively cheap. The company's called, I'm sorry, I had this right in front of me. Viasat. So we're going to look at that. We're also going to look at, well, the name of it went out of my head, but Elon Musk's Starlink. We're looking at
Starlink.
Yeah, thank you. The other thing I wanted to briefly mention, and I'm not sure how much it'll affect this committee, but just putting it out there. We're going to be renegotiating our contract with the sheriff's office starting later this year. That's up the end of June of next year. As you folks know, the new incoming sheriff, Christina Corpus, is a longtime friend to the town. She was the captain to the community. We're looking forward to the discussions with her on an updated contract. And there may be some elements that have a relationship to what the EPC does. So I just want to leave that open. Dale, if that turns out to be the case, I'll be in contact with you about what that can look like. For those that want to participate in any townwide discussions on that, the council is going to put together a subcommittee to work on this next week. And then in October, one of the October meetings, we're going to have a study session with the community on the contract. So I hope people can come to that. Just want to be respectful of time, so I'll stop there. Thanks, Dale.
Rob, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I just thought I would mention to Jeremy that I know that Ray Rothrock is in the process of evaluating the Starlink himself.
Yes.
And I think he's very interested in that. So since Ray is kind of the hub of good communications in Portola Valley, you might want to talk to him about that too. He could probably help you.
Perfect. I appreciate that. That's great. Thank you.
And I have recently hooked up Starlink at my house, and I've had it operating now for not quite a month, but so I'm quite happy with it.
Great.
So
thanks all.
Okay, Jeremy, and yeah, if you need any help from this committee on any of those items, feel free to reach out. If necessary, we can form another, ad hoc subcommittee for short-term help in any way possible.
Perfect.
Okay. Thanks, Jeremy. Subcommittee reports. Ray is not here, but his report was attached. He wanted me to point out that for the first time in a long time, everything on the communication stack is all green. So everything is up and operational and in good shape with all of our radios and repeaters. Rob, your report is attached. Anything you would like to say on evacuation?
No, I think that we're moving now to the next step where we're working very heavily in the group that's hosted by the San Mateo DEM We're very focused right now on school evacuation. And I know that Jeremy is intimately involved in that too. I think that that's probably by far the most important thing that we do next.
I agree. I see Adam and also Roberta here. So I think we're, I know Rob and the committee are working with them. Hi, Roberta. Good to see you. Happy summer.
Thank you for all your work and support of our district's evacuation plans. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so we're deep in the throes of that. What do we call it, Robbie? Multi-jurisdictional group containing Woodside Fire, the DEM, the town, some volunteers trying to understand things and get the schools in town, which I think there are 7. Is that the right number, Rob?
There are 7 schools. There are nearly 1,000 kids in Portola Valley on a full day. An amazing number of people. And, the Portola Valley School District, the public school district, is doing just an outstanding job of being the people that are really kicking this off to get it started as we carry it on to some of the private schools and to the smaller schools. I'd especially like to thank Adam, because Adam is the person that is pushing hard on getting this off the dime and making progress on this. So thank you, Adam.
Okay,
Thanks,
anything else?
Yeah, real quick, I just wanted to thank you guys for helping us get this moving forward. Rob and Dale, you guys have been critical in getting this moved forward for us. So yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. Okay, unless you have anything else, Rob, we'll move on to Vic.
Okay, so a brief report on the outreach that we're doing with respect to implementing neighborhood preparation, evacuation, or I should say emergency preparation. As I think most of you are aware, at the various town events and on a person-to-person basis, we've solicited interest from the various neighborhoods as best as we've been able to identify them. And actually, as a follow-up to this, those that expressed an interest, I held a virtual meeting yesterday on the 3rd. And I want to thank Dale and Jerry and Lynn and Selena. I don't know if I've missed anybody here who have also appeared at this virtual session.
Patty was there.
And Patty, that's right, Patty as well. Thank you.
Okay.
And we had roughly around 10 people. And it was basically an exploratory discussion. With the small attendance, we had represented the neighborhoods of Wyndham Drive, Meadowwood, Corte Madera, Alpine Hills, Shawnee Pass, and Golden Hills. I don't know if I've missed anybody here. So we had a few of our key communities represented there. And I will say to you that the process is a tortuously slow process. Because the real dilemma is not a lack of interest of people for participating in some way. It's taking the leadership of really making it happen. And as all of you have expressed to me in one way or another, that's the real challenge. So it will be an evolutionary process. I'll continue to peck at it, to work at it, identify the leaders and support it. What I was delighted to see is that some of the other communities that have decent programs, emergency preparation programs, contributing and sharing their knowledge. And we have other handbooks out there and so forth from other sections of the community that have been really well done, in addition to the one that we have distributed. So I'll keep working at it, folks, and we'll hopefully be able to make some progress. And we'll certainly speak to it at the upcoming town meeting in September. I think that's my report, subject to any questions that you might have.
Great. Thanks, Vic. And I told Vic, I think this is, the next frontier for the EPC. And it's maybe the most important and the most challenging is identifying the leaders in our various neighborhoods to understand this. And I think Chief made a really good point about when there's an evacuation, people's brains sometimes turn to mush.
All right.
And we need to help them understand what to do and where to go and be as prepared as you can. That's all we can do, but hopefully we make a lot of progress.
By the way, I just want to underscore, Celine and I have been closely coordinating with one another. I know some people expressed an interest slash concern that we work forward together. And of course, as we have in the past, she's been great. And Celine, I assume somewhere on your agenda, on that long list of things to do, you have what are going to be your suggestions to our new handbook. So at the next iteration, there's no rush, but keep it on the list. We can get your input and make sure that we're well coordinated between what we're saying in our emergency handbook and what Woodside Fire wants as well too. Thank you.
Vic, can I just add to that same point? Essentially, we want to make sure that WPV Ready and the work that they're doing around encouraging neighborhoods to organize is synced with our efforts as well, so that we're all on the same page and people are not confused and thinking, should I do it through this route or that route? They should know there's only one route and that we're organized together to accomplish that.
And that, in fact, is what's happened. Selena did a nice presentation on our phone call, and we'll continue to stay very closely integrated so that we're sending the same message with the same support.
Great, thank you, Vic. Lynn is still on. I don't think she had a report on WPV Ready. Chris Ronis is not here to talk about our CERT integration, although that continues to do well. I think we're in pretty good shape there. And on the safety element, we don't have any additional updates that we're aware of or how we have been informed of as of this point on the safety element. Okay, anybody public have any questions? Anybody from the committee have any questions on the committee reports? Looks like we're getting back to being pretty free form. So if anybody has any thoughts, just let us know. And I see no hands. Okay, our next meeting is September the 1st. Anybody in this group who will not be able to make that meeting?
Dale, I'll be on the road and I don't know whether I'll be able to log in. If I can, I will, but I don't know whether that's going to happen.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I will also be on the road that morning. I will try and call in if I can.
Okay. Well, we do have 11 of us, so that's a good thing. So 11 minus 2 is 9. We still have a buffer to make a quorum. So assuming we pick up some of the people we don't have, we will make it. So we'll go ahead and schedule the meeting. Anything that people have they would like to put on the agenda, if you don't have it today, shoot me an email. Let's have a discussion about it. So we can put things on the agenda for the next meeting. It will be advantageous. We will probably talk a little bit about how we're going to set up for the town picnic on the 17th and review anything else that has come up over the month of August. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Right?
Great. Thank you all very much for coming. Appreciate your support for emergency preparedness. Good morning.
Ciao.